Hey, amazing students. So, if you're watching this, that means I am no longer at the school right now, and I've had baby Eden. This is how it's going to go. Every class period till I get back is you are working on, you always watch the video, and you take notes. Do not watch the video, skip through it, not listen, blah, 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 because you don't want to get so far behind that when I get back, I realize you didn't learn anything, right? Take responsibility, be mature, do what you're supposed to do. I believe in you. So, what we are learning is scatterplots. And what is a scatterplot? So what I'm gonna try to do in this video, or in the videos in general, is just kind of talk to you the way I talk to you in class. But please, again, take notes. Answer the questions on your notes as I ask them. So everyone should know what a scatterplot is. Right? It's a plot that has scattered dots on it. What we're learning about today is the description of scatterplots. Like how can you describe scatterplots? What names can you give scatterplots? How can you describe them? So what is it? A scatterplot is a plot with scattered points that tells a relationship between two variables. So whatever x represents, whatever y represents, here's your scatterplot. Scatterplot can look different ways. Doesn't all have to look the same. Okay. And what we're going to learn about is how are x and y related to each other? What are the characteristics? Is it positive? Is it negative? Is it strong? Is it weak? Linear? Nonlinear? No association? And what is an association of a scatterplot? Write this down. Association means relationship. So we want to talk about the relationship between x and y. Also, feel free to pause the video so you can take more notes. Do the most. Don't worry about what people are doing around you. You have your headphones in. You take your notes. Pause the video, rewind, whatever you need to go back to make sure you understand. So a scatterplot is a graph that shows a relationship between two variables. Again, pause the video. What is a scatterplot? Here's your definition. Association. This keyword right here is relationship. Shows the relationship between the two variables. Again, pause the video. Make sure you're taking notes, especially there will be a vocabulary section on your scatterplot test. And then here's the big word that I'm going to use in the next upcoming weeks quite a lot. Trend line. Trend line. This is also known as the line of best fit. The line of best fit. So if I have a scatterplot and I want to draw the trend line, I'm not just playing connect the dots. It'll be the line that's like in the middle of my data that best represents my data. We will go further in depth with trend line in future videos. So, what we're going to do is I have cut this presentation fairly short compared to what I do in class usually. Usually we go through a real world example, make our own scatter plot, but just because I'm not there, that's why we're not doing that. So, there's three different things we need to learn. Direction, form, and strength. So let's start off with describing these three graphs using these words. Positive, negative, or no association. looking at the three graphs, which one do you think would represent a positive association? Please, again, take notes. Draw these graphs on your paper. Write the descriptions. So, positive association, if you guessed this graph right here, you were correct. Why would you say that had a positive association? Well, if you remember back to slope, right, from left to right, if it's increasing, then it's positive. This goes in a positive trend. So as x increases, y increases. It is a positive association. Which one would you say is negative association? Don't just copy me, right? Think about it. Write it down. If you guess this one, you're correct because this is going in a negative direction from left to right. As x is increasing, y is decreasing. As x increases, y decreases. So this is the one with the negative association. And then that would leave this one meaning no association. But why? Why would this one be no association? Don't just write it. Think about it. Why? Why is that no association? If you thought that because it doesn't show a pattern at all, you're correct, right? You can't tell if it goes up. You can't tell if it goes down. It's not showing any pattern. So I'm going to go through these descriptions quickly, and then you can pause the video and make sure you write all these definitions down. Two variables have a positive association if y increases as x increases, which is this graph right here. The variables have a negative association if y decreases as x increases, which is showing on this graph right here. As I go up on the x-axis, the points are going down on the y-axis. If the data does not show a clear relationship, then that means there's no association. So if it doesn't show any relationship, then it's no association. So that's direction. So if I ask you, give me direction, you should be able to tell me positive, negative, or no association. Then we have form. What does form mean? If it goes in a linear pattern, meaning, notice when I drew my trend line, I drew a straight line because they're going in a positive linear pattern. They form a line type look. Then it's known to have a linear association. But if the data has a noticeable curve to it, so if I have a graph that you obviously can tell the points are curved, right? If I drew a line through this, it would look like this. That noticeable curve means it's non-linear. Non-linear association. So if there's a noticeable curve, it has to have a curve. I probably spelled that very wrong. But curve, it has to have a curve to it, then it's a nonlinear association. And the last thing is strength. The strength of a data shows if your points are closely clustered together or if they're really far apart. So if they're really close together, then the strength is said to be strong. If they're a little bit more scattered but still form a linear association, then that would be weak. So an example of strong might be these points are really close together. But an example of weak, they're not so close together, but you can still tell they're going in a positive direction. So again, pause the video, take the notes. So here's the difference between strong and weak. You make your observation. Why do you think this one's strong? Why do you think this one's weak? Right? This is really close together. These points are really close. These are more spread apart. But they're both positive. Why? Why do they both have this word positive here? Because they're going in a linear left to right. They're increasing from left to right. As x increases, y increases. Linear because they both, even though it's not a obvious straight line, they go in a linear direction. All right, so what I want you to do is pause the video, direction, form, strength. Write down for each graph what you think it is. What's the direction? And this is where you have to go back and look at your notes. Direction was positive, negative, or no association. What's the form? Linear, nonlinear. What's the strength? Strong or weak? So pause the video, and then I'll write, as you play the video, I'll have the answer. So direction, positive, linear. Form, linear. Strength, I mean, these are pretty strong. If I drew a line, they're all pretty close to the, if this was a straight line, close to the line, forming a line. So I would say this data is pretty strong or moderate. Pause the video, write down direction, form, and strength for this one. Direction, this is going in a linear, negative linear association. Linear, because it's forming a line type pattern. Strength, I would say definitely strong. They're very close together, forming a line, a pretty strong line. The relationship between X and Y is very clear, very strong. Pause the video. Direction, there is none. This is no association. It's not going positive, negative, curved, anything. Form, there is no form. Strength, there is no strength. Because it has no relationship. X and Y do not have a relationship here. So, which graph would you say forms a positive linear association? If you guess this one, you are correct. Which graph is non-linear? If you guess these two right here, you're correct because they have a noticeable curve to them. How would you describe this graph? Negative linear association. Great. All right, pause the video. Can you match it with the description? Great. Again, guys, please take the time to actually interact with the video. I know it's not the same as if I was there with you, but please take the time to be like, okay, I'm going to answer these questions. I'm going to pause. I'm going to answer. I'm going to think. Because if you just copy, you're kind of like half listening, you're not learning. Okay, so positive. No association because there's no pattern at all. Non-linear. They have a pattern, it's just a curved pattern. And then negative, because it's decreasing from left to right. Increasing from left to right. Good. Here's an actual star question. Which scatter plot suggests a linear relationship? Pause the video. Is it A, B, C, or D? Linear relationship. Let's look at B. How would you describe this? Non-linear, because it has a noticeable curve. D, how would you describe this? Non-linear, because it has a noticeable curve. C, how would you describe this? I would say this is no association. To me, there's no pattern at all. They're just kind of scattered everywhere. If you guessed A, you were correct. This has a positive linear association. Here's another star question. Which scatter plots suggest a linear relationship? If you notice, the word line is in this word. Pause the video. Is it A, B, C, or D? How did you describe A? Non-linear, because it has a noticeable curve. How would you describe B? No association. How would you describe C? Non-linear, noticeable curve. How would you describe D? Positive linear association. Good. All right. Miss you bunches. Have a great, great day. Look at the canvas to see what your assignment is. Okay. Have a great day.